All right, so today we are diving headfirst into a really high-stakes showdown. We're talking about one of the world's most powerful regulators going toe-to-toe with a massive social media platform. And this isn't just some boring legal dispute. It's a story that's all about money, freedom, and, the very future of our digital town square. So let's start with a number, 120 million euros. Yeah. That's the absolutely unprecedented fine the European Commission has just slapped on X, the platform we all used to call Twitter. Now, a number that big is obviously meant to send a message, right? But the source material we're digging into today asks a really important question. What's the real message here? And well, here's how X's owner sees it. This quote, tyrannical, unelected bureaucracy oppressing the people. It just immediately frames this whole thing, doesn't it? It's not just a disagreement over rules. No. This is being painted as a massive battle over who gets to decide what we can say and see online. Okay, so let's really unpack what's going on. This isn't just your average run-of-the-mill fine. Not at all. This is a huge landmark move. It is the first ever penalty handed down under this powerful new set of rules in Europe called the Digital Services Act, or you'll see it as the DSA. So, on paper, the European Commission broke the fine down into three main chunks. You've got 45 million euros for how the platform handled its blue checkmark verification. Then there's another 40 million for apparently not giving researchers enough data access. And finally, 35 million for not being transparent enough with its ads. So, yeah, those are the official reasons. And you really have to understand, the stakes here are absolutely massive. The DSA gives these regulators some serious teeth. We're talking about the power to fine a company up to 6% of its entire global yearly income if they don't play by the rules. So suddenly, a law made in Europe becomes a huge deal for every major tech company on the planet. And this is where our source material really starts to dig in. The argument is that this whole fight isn't really about blue checkmarks or ad data. The claim is that those official reasons, they're just a cover story, a convenient excuse for something much, much bigger. And this really lays it out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the EU's official list of charges, misleading checkmarks, lack of data, the stuff we just talked about. But on the other side, you see what the source claims is the real agenda? For a regulatory body in Europe to get total, centralized control over what is, for all intents and purposes, a global digital town square. And this quote from the source really nails that perspective down. It's arguing that the EU is basically saying, we believe we have the authority to dictate how this American company, this global town square, has to operate. It's framing this as a massive overreach, an attempt to set the rules for online speech for the entire world. Okay, and this right here, this brings us to the absolute core of the source's argument. The idea is that, yeah, this fight with X is a big deal, but X is really just the symptom, not the disease. The real problem is something much more fundamental about the way our entire online world is built. So it kind of forces you to ask, right? What if X isn't the actual problem here? What if it doesn't matter who owns it or what their policies are? What if the root of the problem is just bigger? And here's the answer the source gives us. It argues that any huge centralized social network, it doesn't matter if it's X or Facebook or TikTok, you name it, is by its very nature the ultimate free speech bottleneck. It creates this single choke point where powerful people can control, slow down, or just completely shut down the conversation. So, according to the source, there are three massive flaws baked into this centralized design. First up, you get a single point of regulatory failure. Right? If a government can lean on just one company, it can basically influence the entire global conversation. Second, you have algorithmic manipulation, secret formulas deciding what you get to see and what you don't. And third, there's data exploitation. The whole model is often funded by, let's be honest, watching everything we do. So what's the bottom line here? The source is basically saying that free speech on these platforms isn't a feature, it's a favor. It's not baked into the design. It only exists because of the, quote, temporary goodwill of the owners. You change the owner, or you ramp up the political pressure, and poof, that freedom could be gone in an instant. Okay, so if centralization is the big, bad bottleneck, what's the escape route? Well, this is where the whole argument pivots. It moves from just pointing out the problem to laying out a pretty radical new vision for the future, a way to get out of this bottleneck for good. And the proposed solution has a name, SNaaS. It stands for Social Networks as a Service.
And the idea is actually pretty simple at its core. It's about shifting from a world where we're all just tenants, renting space on someone else's digital property, to a world where we can actually own and control our own online communities.
And the big picture goal? It's to completely get rid of the idea of a single digital sovereign. One single power that holds all the keys. In this kind of model, there's no single company, no single government, no single billionaire who gets to be the gatekeeper for the public square. Instead, that power gets spread out.
Now, this whole decentralized idea is part of what the source calls a Web 4 future. And the thinking here is that this isn't just some small upgrade or a new app. No, this is supposed to be the next step in the evolution of the internet, moving past the big tech-dominated Web 2.0 world we're all living in now. This table really breaks down the difference, side by side. You look at the old model, right? Control is corporate. The feed is all about algorithms pushing engagement. And the business model? Ads and data collection. The SNaaS model just flips the script entirely. Control goes to the community. The feed is chronological, controlled by you. And the business model is a simple service fee, no surveillance capitalism.
So let's just recap the core ideas behind this SNaaS model. First, community sovereignty. You actually own your digital space. Second, freedom from the feed filter. No more algorithms deciding what's important for you. Third, an ethical business model. So no more being the product. And it's all built on top of this decentralized Web 4 ecosystem. And here's the kicker. The source presents this as being, dead simple. We're not talking about needing a computer science degree. The idea is that anyone could just use a simple AI prompt and, boom, launch their very own social network in like 30 seconds. You could literally own your own digital home that fast. So, as we bring this all together, the main takeaway from the source is this. This massive fight between the EU and X, it's more than just drama for the headlines. It's a wake-up call. It's not just showing us the cracks in the current system, it's actually lighting up the path to a completely different solution. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. After seeing just how much pressure regulators can bring and how fragile a centralized system can be, is the real future of free speech online not about winning the fight for the old town square, but about having the freedom to build and own our own?